Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Da 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 da! You sound insane. You realize that? Yeah. The whole world gone crazy. Seriously? Yeah. It's showtime.
We're stepping into the Monsterverse on this episode of Mad About Movies. We're a man down, but never fear because Mothra Shane is here. Hey, Mothra Shane.
Hey guys, how are you? Good to be here as always.
I'm sad to report you're named after the only female kaiju in the entire film, I think. So that we know. That's a compliment or it's definitely an insult. If Richard was here, he would consider it an insult. Right. No, good to have Batman Shane, as he has been affectionately dubbed by the Man Fam, back on the show to pinch hit for Richard, who is not here. Myself, Kent, and Brian, we don't miss. We don't just go have jobs and lives or anything. You know? We just
This is the priority.
Yeah.
Look, there's always the starring talent, and then there's the guest stars. You know.
Exactly. So Richard is off doing a thing called Life right now, but nonetheless, we do have Batman Shane here to pinch hit, and we're stepping into Monsterverse and talking Godzilla 2, King of the Monsters, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, or Godzilla 2. However you want to look at it, the third entry into the Monsterverse cinematic universe, and not the last, apparently, which we're definitely going to talk about that later on. Exciting times to come. Of course, Weekly Recommends at the end. I'm excited to talk about my Weekly Recommend. I hope you guys are too. Some movie news, some, more on the rumbling side of things. Don't get too excited on that. I'm going to tease that, but definitely have some stuff to talk about before we get into Godzilla talk. But Brian, I want to shout out especially to our VIPs who join us every week after the show at madaboutmoviespodcast.com/VIP, in which we record another episode. And this week we recorded an X-Men throwback with Geek 101's Ariel Rada. And we did the original X-Men from 2000, threw it back to that, and talked about the origins of the X-Men franchise and kind of where it's come over the years. It was a really fun talk. Loved it. Really nerdy conversation. So if you want to hear that prior to going and seeing Dark Phoenix, if you're seeing Dark Phoenix or afterwards or whatever, check it out at madaboutmoviespodcast.com/VIP. And that feed helps support the show and helps maintain our show on the main feed. Keeps happening. And that's what we all want to happen, right? So support us over there if you listen to us every week, and that everything will take care of itself. So let's get into some shout-outs, Brian. You want to shout out to a few of those people before we get into movie news?
Sure. Let's do it. These are the names of some recently joined VIPs on the VIP club and fan club and lounge.
Tortilla Factory.
Factory and... donut shop in the mornings, etc. that we've that can't just plug. So big thanks to the following people: to Michael Aguirre, Spencer Garner, Isis Alvarez, Kirk Grunman, Gus Jimenez, Jacob Mattingly, Joseph Morrison, Lauren Park, Tyler Smith, Jennifer Tyndall, Sean Blanford, Blake Osborne, Lily Young, Brian Wadley, and Josh Ramsey, who just joined the Eye, and he's going to be on our X-Men episode next week, Kent. So be on the lookout for that. Big shouts to our Eye members, especially.
Yeah, they got to be careful not to look too close. But those people, special people, that get special perks as members of the Eye, and we got a lot of good stuff coming up. Is our AMA for June, our next Harry Potter, and Harry Potter 4, and the Goblet of something. Is it that one?
Yeah.
Goblet of Fire. I'm right. Holy moly!
Yeah, we just
Goblet of Fire.
Look at you. Yeah. We're making you a Harry Potter guy.
I knew I was wrong when I said the word goblet, and then I was right, and I freaked myself out.
Yeah, it's perfect. We've already gotten to you. Yeah. 3 movies in, we got to you.
Yeah, that's going to be happening very soon there as well. Yeah. So
the back tattoos are coming.
Yeah, Toy Story, I believe, retrospective in the coming weeks as well. So good times happening over there after the show. But the show must go on over here. So let's move into a little bit of movie news, rumors, rumblings, guys. Let's do it.
Movie news,
yes,
rumors, and rumblings.
That's awesome.
Let the filibustering begin.
Just a few notes here. Just a few small notes. Let's talk about Netflix. See what's going on over at Netflix.
I'm unfamiliar. Please enlighten me.
First of all, I wanted to ask you guys just about your watching habits and kind of what your daily life is like nowadays, what you're consuming, how you consume things at home in your daily life when you get home. Shane, are you a streaming subscriber? How many of these streaming services do you have, and what would your average, I guess, day look like as far as dividing your time up between them? And is Netflix your go-to anymore? Because for me, Netflix, I watch Netflix probably less than I ever have, believe it or not. The only times I really get on Netflix is when a big event series happens, and then I'll binge something really fast and then kind of put it away for a while. Maybe I'll catch some stand-up on there every now and then. But I've got my own home library of movies and stuff like that to watch. So I find myself on Netflix less and less these days. So I don't know if that's a good thing for me and a bad thing for Netflix, but I'm interested in kind of updating on y'all's watching habits and how they've changed over the past couple of years. But Batman, Shane, what do you watch? What are you watching right now?
The honest truth is I really don't watch a lot of stuff on Netflix streaming, and that is not a judgment call on anything that Netflix has. What it really boils down to is, for me, it's this kind of weird psychological effect where, because it's on streaming, I just tell myself, oh yeah, it's always going to be there. Like, I'm in no rush to get to it. So I just keep saying that about all of these different shows. And now, like, if I took a look at my Netflix queue, it would be 87 titles and series long of oh yeah, I meant to get around to that, didn't I? So I honestly don't watch a ton of stuff on Netflix streaming. I feel like if they were to break down my analytics, it would be an overwhelming amount of Frasier reruns and then percentages of everything else. But my wife watches a lot of Netflix streaming stuff. She usually tries to keep up with a lot of that stuff, and so she watches a lot of it, and she likes a lot of their original programming. And it really is a great service for consumers that you have all of these options. But to a certain point, though, I think that's now, and I'm curious to hear you guys' takes on this as well. It's getting to a point. Do you guys remember when Netflix streaming was new? Orange is the New Black and House of Cards. Some of those shows were like water cooler TV, right? Where everybody was watching and everybody was talking about them. Netflix now has so many new shows and movies that how many times have you been asked oh, Brian, are you watching this show on Netflix? And it's dude, I haven't even heard of that show. There's just so much stuff now. Totally. And you're trying to be polite, but you're there's no way I'm getting around to the show because I haven't even heard of it now. So I don't watch a ton of stuff because I feel like if I did, I would dive in so deep that I'd never leave my couch. But how do you guys manage kind of what feels like the endless sea of shows that are on there now? How do you pick and choose?
No, that's how I feel too. There's so many times, and especially because of our Twitter presence and our email, all that sort of stuff. We get constantly emails and tweets of hey, have you guys seen? And literally that is always my response. It's just I don't even know what that is. I've never even heard of that. So it's slowed down a little bit over the last year because two reasons. I think number one, I think more and more people are recognizing that there are just so many dadgum things that are on this one streaming service, let alone the 500 other streaming services that we all have to deal with, that's just I'm not even going to bother recommending this to these guys because they're either going to watch it or they're not, and it's not going to matter. they have seen it or they won't see it. You know, it's like it's hard to sell people on it at this point because there's just so many things. But the other thing is too, by design, I think Netflix has begun pushing their movies more than their shows. And I don't know if that will swing back the other direction or if there's kind of a lull in their high quality TV programming at the moment or what, or if it's just build the brand of being a purveyor of movies. But with stuff like what was the Sandra Bullock one, the Bird
Box?
Bird Box and Triple Frontier earlier this year, and now like Always Be My Maybe, and they've really camped out in the romantic comedy realm, which is great because that's filling a gap that truly is not being touched by the traditional movie theater distribution and experience, stuff like that. So like that is I'm much more likely to hear that at this point from friends and some listeners of like, hey, have you watched Bird Box? Like 400 million people told me I had to watch Bird Box before I watched it, you know, and that still happens. But the series thing, like to kind of tie it back to your original question, like I use Netflix personally for the movies that are coming around, and I do the same thing as you do, Shane. Like I just add it to my queue and I'm like, someday I'll get to this, you know, and occasionally I'll really make a point of it because it has some extra cultural viability, or it's being discussed and bandied about in the cultural zeitgeist or whatever, or it's, you know, it's something that really jumps out to me as, oh, that's an actor or an actress that I really love, or that's a director that I'm very interested in, or whatever. I use it for that, to watch the movies that Netflix is providing, the originals or the ones that they've bought from the festival circuit, that type of thing. And I use it to rewatch The Office and Parks and Recreation and Frasier and Friends and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff like that. That's all that it really is to me. And that's fine because it's like $11 a month, and that perfectly fits the bill of what I'm looking for $11 a month. When some of those it feels like once a month these stories start circulating of like Netflix is going to lose the rights to The Office next month, you know, and that's constantly happening. When that actually happens, when NBC decides we're going to move this all to our own standalone streaming service, which I know is in the works, then maybe that changes things. And Netflix is very smart to have figured out, I think they've always been kind of ahead of the curve on understanding eventually that is going to happen, so we need to have our own in-house stuff that people will want to stick around and watch, and keep the price point low enough to where you don't really notice it on your bill. And that's they've done that very well for me too. And then I'll hand it back to you, Kent. Like it's invaluable from a parenting standpoint as well, because there's a lot.
I could imagine. Netflix
crushes everyone else on kids programming at this point. Crush it. It's not even close. Hulu sucks. Amazon Prime sucks. The Disney Now app, which I've ranted about in the past, is like it's just a very bad app. So there's plenty of shows that Coop likes to watch that are on Disney Now, but it's just not a very good app. When Disney Plus comes out, that may change. But there are a wide range of kids programming choices, movies and TV shows, and a lot of them annoy the crap out of me, but they're fine, and they're, you know, they can keep my child entertained when I need to have him entertained, and it's fine as background stuff. We're pretty strict on like screen time and stuff like that, but it is so easy in a pinch to be like, hey man, I really need 30 minutes here. Can you find something on Netflix? Yep, absolutely. And without Netflix, I don't know what that would look like, because it's like I said, the rest of the services are just garbage comparatively.
Kent and Brian, do either of you guys still get the discs on Netflix?
No,
they still do that.
Years.
They do, and I got to tell you, I'm the guy that I use a ton of. Now that's where I get my money on Netflix. Is I rent a lot of the discs because I get, you know, basically the Netflix DVD discs now, they basically have replaced Blockbuster in the sense that you can go and you can get a copy of all of the new release movies when they hit DVD. So if it's a movie that you wanted to see in theaters and you missed it, like i'll give you a good example. There was a movie that came out earlier this year called Greta that had Chloe Chloe Grace Moretz and Isabella Huppert in it. My wife wanted to go see that, but we just weren't able to get out to the theater. So once that movie hits VOD, it's not like it's available to stream anywhere per a service. You have to pay money to rent it in iTunes or Amazon, right, or whatever. Now, maybe 8 or 9 months from now, it'll be on one of those streaming services for free. But I still pay for the Netflix DVDs so that basically anytime a new release hits disc, I can just get it shipped to my house. So I do still, I'll be like the last DVD subscriber, no matter how many people make fun of me or call me old, but I'll be that guy that still has the DVD sent to his house.
Yeah. Our friend Brian Simpson, one of my buddies who is a big listener, he's the same way. He's the only other person I know besides you, Shane, that still gets the DVDs, and he's the same way. He's like, nope, I'm gonna keep
gonna do
grinding
that now.
this out. I'm
gonna cancel my streaming and just do the DVDs. That's awesome. I didn't know they still did that. I thought they discontinued that service.
No, they do, dude. And they get every single movie that comes out on DVD, and they get it like
immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, they get it. I'm just going to build up.
I'm going to do what you did. I'm going to build up a queue of just new movies that I want to watch on my at home, and just it'll auto send them to me. That sounds like a great idea. But
absolutely, and they've got tons of classics as well, right? Like it's hard to find like Akira Kurosawa films on a streaming service, but Netflix DVD has all of them.
Oh, they have everything on DVD. I remember, before they were really into the instant streaming stuff. This will throw back. It's got to be 10 years ago at this point. Right when they started Watch Instantly is what it was called on Netflix, and it was an actual disc you had to put in your PlayStation to make it play. It was like like a CD-ROM basically to launch the app to watch.
I forgot about
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
Do you remember when there was a brief minute there where they were going to split the services, and I think they were going to call the disc Quickster.
It was called,
and then everybody
Quickster. Yeah, Quickster was the disc company, and then like everybody, like the stock price had plummeted, and then they dropped the idea like a week later or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
KWIK, was that Quickster? KWIKSTE or something like that. Yeah. And I remember it because like at Quickster on Twitter was some pothead kid or something. And he had some like incredible tweets that people just started retweeting right after they announced it. But yeah, wow. To your point, Brian, my destination for Netflix these days is with original programming. I rarely use it to go watch old sitcoms or stuff. Most of those I've got box sets of already. The Office, Seinfeld, Friends, those types of shows. I honestly have kept it around for the original programming. As soon as I want to cancel it or move on, I go and look at I'm like, oh, well, 2 weeks from now is the new season of, Comedians in Cars. That's one of my favorite things. And then, well, I guess the next thing for me is Stranger Things 3 is coming out in like the 4th of July weekend. So I'm keeping it until then at least, So there are certain things that have kept me on board. But, they're releasing 60 or 65 original series or movies this month, I think. So incredible the amount of output that they have, but they have no choice at this point but to do that. But it's going to be interesting to see. We've talked about it in the past, and I'm not going to bog it down here. I want to talk about some Netflix news, which is why I wanted your thoughts on Netflix and kind of their current state of things. But Apple's launching their service, Disney Plus, so this fall. So the competition's only going to get stiffer for Netflix, in terms of market share. There's going to be more competition for them, but they're going to really have to have some stellar output this year if they want to stay aboard. And they've got the Martin Scorsese movie. They've got some big time projects coming out this fall that I think will help them. But it's only going to get tougher from their perspective to keep people convinced to stay subscribed. But yeah, Netflix and chill has not been a thing in a while. You're right. There haven't been a lot of water cooler shows. Game of Thrones, Westworld, those types of shows were all all HBO or network TV or of the shows everyone's kind of been talking about for the past 6 months to a year. So, yeah, that's kind of
Sure.
So I guess the news I want to announce is they've announced an animated series of a property that a lot of people have been kind of anticipating for a long time would finally get an adaptation, and it's an animated adaptation brought to us by the producers and directors of Avengers Endgame, the Russo brothers, and they're doing a Magic the Gathering animated series for Netflix. I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on that. Are y'all into Magic? Is this something that maybe you'd want to see? I know there's certainly an audience for this somewhere, because Magic is a big. I have friends that are really into Magic, so I know it's a big thing. But yeah, that's kind of a big announcement coming out of Netflix.
Yeah,
today.
and the Russos are doing it, right?
Yeah,
They're producing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. That has me enthused. I was never a Magic guy, because I talk to girls. You know, I was just
Exactly.
Just kidding. No, but that was a thing that I was aware of that sort of existed post Pogs, pre Pokemon. There's like this little gap where people were playing Magic.
The sweet pocket of 1998.
Yeah. I think Magic actually started like in 1995, but I don't remember seeing it.
I don't know what
until...
post Pogs. I don't understand what you mean post Pogs. Is that
bring
not
back
still
Pogs, man? I'm
do you mean
all
bring
in
back
on
Pogs?
the comeback trail for Pogs. They have a Pog. I was at Target today and I saw in the it wasn't like the toy section. It was like the like the DVDs that turn into like Funko Pops, and that section back there. They're marketing essentially Pogs, but not under the Pogs name. It's like Cappers or something like that. And I was like, "You're bringing back Pogs.
desperate.
You better put the name on it."
Surely the Pog brand can't be that expensive to.
Yeah, we could. Totally,
Someone still has the rights.
We
to
could
the
throw our
Pog.
money together and
we should buy that.
Mam Fam should buy
Brian,
the Pog
Brian, I'll be
brand.
kind of honest. I'm surprised that the Pogs were not sandwiched between like the dentures and the like Bengay. And
Yeah, totally. Man, I would be all in for a Pog renaissance.
There's a large audience of people that have no idea what Pogs are.
Yeah, go
That-
Google
yeah.
Pogs, Pogs, and
then
was great.
tweet us pictures of your best slammer.
Yeah, if you have a cool slammer still, if you can find your old Pogs, I want to see pictures of your Pogs. I think I have one tube of Pogs somewhere in the attic and like a box of
A tube
keepsakes or
of
whatever.
Pogs.
Yeah, man.
Sick
Pogs
tube.
were so dope for about 6 months. Gosh, and like taught kids how to
And then
gamble.
Beanie Babies
that
came
was
out,
awesome.
and they were the coolest
Freaking
thing.
Beanie Babies.
Yeah.
Sometimes get out of here with your Beanie Babies. Yeah, Pogs were dope. Big fan. I'm totally off track. Magic. Yeah, like I never was into Magic. I knew a few people who were in middle school and or high school, but it was never of great interest to me. At some point, I acquired a large collection of Magic cards. I don't know, via eBay or Craigslist or something, like maybe a garage sale or something. Just was like, oh, these were, and I was like, I can't figure this game out. I don't understand.
Grandma like gives them to you. All the kids are playing this game at
exactly.
Target.
Exactly. So I think I just gave them away eventually. But I think it what more than anything else, I was interested in the Russo's name. That's cool. I like that. I like when big name producers and filmmakers and stuff produce stuff like that. I think it's smart to get into that game and good for them. More than anything, I was like, I can't believe that hasn't been done to this point with everything from the 80s and 90s having been pilfered for movie and or TV rights, except for Pogs. It's amazing to me that Magic the Gathering hasn't been done to this point.
Pogs the movie needs to happen.
I'm in.
We can-
I'm in.
we can-
It's like
Oh, dude, I've
Battleship.
got a screenplay ready to go.
Yeah, I was going to say it would not take much.
It's a stack of screenplays, and then I'm just gonna knock it over with my slammer.
Yeah, I've got Beanie Babies,
No.
the movie, happening too. So anthropomorphic
Yeah, I mean-
Beanie Babies. It's way better than Ugly Dolls. Bullcrap.
I'm in.
Yeah, I will say, like, look, the Russos are so hot right now that anything they want to do, anybody's going to put money on them. But honestly, I am surprised to see Magic the Gathering get such big name talent and get kind of a green light. I mean, it just kind of feels to me that Magic the Gathering is in that same kind of category of like World of Warcraft, even though one's a card game, one's a video game. But it just kind of feels like in your head, there should be a good version of this. And then the final product usually always ends up letting you down.
Sure.
So I just don't know. You would hope that Netflix would invest some serious money into this. And I'm sure they will. But, 18 months from now or 2 years from now when it comes out, are we all going to be sitting around going, well, this is all right, this is like a B- at best, And if that's the case, was it even worth it?
Yeah.
But to be fair,
I was certainly an audience. I think that I think if it services that audience, I think Netflix will be happy, because nobody is gonna understand what they're trying to do except for that audience, critics included. And I don't think they can claim to unless they really are into Magic the Gathering, which they might be. And then I will have no right to judge this show, and I'll fully admit that off the top. So,
well,
I don't know if I'll watch it.
It's not the worst idea. I mean,
not at all.
From a fantasy standpoint, fantasy is cool right now, or hot, or whatever, and that's. I don't want to say fantasy is hot. I tried every which way I could. Right not saying fantasy is hot, but that
I'm saying it is. It is. It is really hot.
It's so hot right now. It's like Hansel.
Yeah. But that's that genre is a big player right now, and so there's a lot of in a post Game of Thrones world. I think you will see more of. There's probably a lot of book properties, but also now, I guess, game properties that will be looked at for series and or movie rights that could be a big factor, and just it may end up being one of these. It may end up being a shotgun approach where you just shoot out as many fantasy TV series and movies as you can, and see which ones stick. But you're right. Like I hope that it's. If nothing else, I just hope it doesn't turn out to be like a World of Warcraft movie, the Duncan Jones thing that actually turned out to be a harbinger of he's just not good at making movies. That's all. Like, he had two good ones, and then he completely crapped the bed. So.
I'd say it's a good thing to figure that out sooner rather than later, so we don't waste our time. Also, speaking of Netflix, and the last thing before we'll talk Godzilla here in a second. Is the Dark Crystal movie series or something coming there? Series. Did you see this?
Yeah, it's a series.
Yeah. Okay.
November, I think.
It's going to be multiple seasons?
August, yeah. I think so. I mean, I don't know that they've announced extra seasons, but it would be interesting or maybe just bad for Netflix to greenlight one season of that without a real plan to do a second or third, unless it just turns out to be terrible or something. That's the type of thing that has to... I would assume you kind of have to have in the back of your head, we're gonna give this 3 seasons because it's gonna take a while to unfold and develop this whole world and stuff. Did you guys watch I know you are younger than me. Did y'all watch Dark Crystal growing up?
No, I didn't. I mean, I'm aware of what it is, but I've never seen it. I have no nostalgia for it.
Gotcha. I loved the Dark Crystal.
I was into all things Jim Henson Productions.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sure.
But I mean, look, here's the deal. In a world where all of these properties are getting rebooted, I think it's a great thing because there are definitely people who are diehard Dark Crystal fans and they deserve to get their reboot just as well as, diehard whatever, like Sonic the Hedgehog fans or, people who are fans of Magic the Gathering. Like, it's cool that all these properties are finally getting like big budget treatment because there's a core group of people who are just foaming at the mouth, excited for this, and good for them. I hope we all want everything to be good. No one likes it when a property is terrible. So I hope it turns out. But no, I just don't know enough about Dark Crystal to get excited about it.
It was
Jim Henson, right?
Yeah, it is. Jim Henson. It came out in '82, so it's older than I am. That's one of the ones that shocks me now looking back on, because I watched that a ton as a kid and I loved it. And it's weird to me now that I wasn't creeped out by it, and more so even that my parents let me watch it, because I grew up in a pretty a relatively strict conservative household, and that seems like something I would never let my 6-year-old watch The Dark Crystal right now. Like, we're at least 2 years away from that, I think, because he'll just be terrified by it. But it didn't, for all the things that do creep me out and did creep me out when I was that age. I loved The Dark Crystal, and it never was one that bothered me. And I'm pumped for this, man. I think it's a cool universe to explore. It may be a total misfire, but it seems like when this was announced last year, the year before, I was like, that sounds like a really smart idea if they can get it right. It's not one that jumps out as like, man, gotta remake and or expand upon The Dark Crystal. You know, that's not at the top of my list in 2017 or something. But when it was announced, I was like, that actually sounds like it could be really cool.
I agree. Hopefully it will be, but with Louis Leterrier at the helm, it's not likely.
A lot of shaky cam.
A lot of spinning shots. Cam. Yeah. And it turns out that David Bowie was behind it the entire time. I don't know. David Bowie's not involved, but it's physically impossible. Okay. Let's move on, guys, and get ready and talk about Godzilla. All right. We're talking King of the Monsters here. And it's no secret that if you've listened to the show before, we were fans of the first Godzilla, the not the 1998 one, but the 2014 one that came out during the tenure of this podcast, the duration of this show. We did a review on that, so if you want our full thoughts on Godzilla 2014, it's available on our website, I believe. I don't think it's on the iTunes feed, anything like that anymore. So,
speak for yourself, bro. 98 was a masterpiece.
It's a piece of something. I don't know about masterpiece. It's I definitely remember that one coming out and being very excited for that one. But you know what? Yeah, I still rock the soundtrack. Still got that CD rocking, compact disc rocking. The thing about Godzilla is it's such a guilty pleasure for me, man. I just want to suspend my disbelief so much with these movies, with King Kong, with Godzilla, with any kind of monster attacking a city kind of scenario, that I have such a soft spot for that. I don't know why, but I do. It probably goes back to seeing Jurassic Park when I was younger, and the larger-than-life element of dinosaurs and creatures in movies has always intrigued me. I thought Godzilla 2014 did it just about as good as you can do it on the big screen without overdoing it. This one leaned much more towards the overdoing it than it did the taking it easy aspect of things, like when Gareth Edwards was directing these. But nonetheless, man, I love me some Godzilla. I love a good disaster movie. I love kaiju. I love monsters. I love destruction for the most part. And so when I saw the reviews for this, I was really, really disappointed. And because I have high hopes for these, I want these to be successful. I want these to make money. I want there to be a movie. I want there to be one of these every year. I want there to be Mothra returns, and now he's got robotic arms and he's facing off against Pacific Rim against Godzilla. You know, I want all that in one. I want all these movies. So I saw the reviews, and the reviews were saying, you know, it's if you're looking for action, it'll satisfy your urge, but it's definitely short on the human drama. I was like, well, what? Godzilla movie isn't short on the human drama. Like, what movie Godzilla movie did we see that we were all like, you know what? The Godzilla stuff was great, but what I really loved was the main storyline between the father and son, and that's what really hammered it. No, I don't. I think that's totally beside the point of why you would go to watch these movies. If anything, I think this movie tried a little bit too hard for some of the human element stuff, the family stuff. It probably should have been just more of, Project Monarch is losing control of their containment center for all these things, and Godzilla has to come out and save the day. Should have been more along the lines of that instead of the family drama stuff, which was my main complaint, I believe, with 2014. But for the most part, man, I had a freaking blast with this. I love all these creatures. I love Godzilla, and it's going to be hard for me not to recommend this based on, like, if you want to see Godzilla on a big screen and that's really all you care about seeing, then I think this is going to be fine. But if you're looking for, Vera Farmiga and Kyle Chandler to have a great on-screen relationship, then you're not going to find that. But I don't know anyone that was going into that. But if you want to see some overacting from Millie Bobby Brown, then you're in luck, because there's plenty to go around for everybody. But for the freaking Godzilla stuff, man, I was fine with it. And we'll talk about specifics, but like I said, that's all I really want from these. And these are total guilty pleasure for me again. So I'm totally guilty of that. If you guys hated these and it was unbearable, totally get it. But for me, I'll probably watch this one 10 more times, just because they're such dumb popcorn movies. It's the oldest old school cinema to me, the King Kong Godzilla movie type movie, and this is just celebrating that just throwing it back to that, if that makes sense. So Brian, I know you liked 2014. What was your anticipation coming into this and all that? I know you were hoping this one would do well for other reasons.
Yeah, I was
facing off against us,
totally. But my stupid movie draft is going poorly, but I was very excited for this. I loved that 2014 movie, and I wasn't a big Godzilla giant monster guy or disaster movie. Like, that wasn't something I very distinctly remember being like, I'll go see this Godzilla movie because it had a great trailer, and it's a summer movie, and we see movies for semi-quasi-partial supplement of a living, and I loved it. I think it was either in my top 10 of that year or very close to the top 10. I thought it was such a great movie, and I loved you're right, Ken. Like, I don't go to see a Godzilla movie for the human element of things, and we're going to get into that a lot, I'm sure, with this one. But that is one of the things I think makes Godzilla, the 2014 one, work so well. Is Gareth Edwards has that sort of indie movie director sensibilities that he brought to that movie, to that script, and it did a really good job of developing some human relationships and giving those characters some value to the story without having to really dig into their background. It's pretty simple setup, and we just go with it. And now the monsters are here, and that's really what you're here to see anyway. But the human characters felt like they actually mattered to that story, whereas this one is much more of like desperately grasping for human characters that matter, when we're all just like, bro, just show us the Godzilla. That's what we're all here for. So it's a weird, it's weird to criticize this movie for not getting right what the other movie got right, despite the fact that it's going for exactly that. There's some execution parts of it that are problematic, but it also just it really leans into the development of these characters, and we don't really care about that. We just want them, at best, we want the human characters to be the B or the C story. We don't want them sharing the title card, with the top billing with Godzilla and Mothra and all the rest of these giant creatures that are going to fight. So I was really excited about this movie. I was bummed by the reception going in. I had to see this late. I just saw it this morning instead of being able to see it over the weekend because of some work stuff. And I typically, a movie like this, I'd rather see on Thursday or Friday so I can kind of get in before not that I ever read a review, but before the noise around a movie starts to really take off. And I couldn't, so I was pretty bummed about the Rotten Tomato score and just the general consensus. The wasn't very popular. I mean, it won the weekend, but it made, I think, half of what the 2014 movie made. So it's just kind of a bummer on that front. But Ken, I'm with you, man. Like, there are real legitimate criticisms with this, and they make me angry because they feel like the type of potholes and issues that should be very easily avoided, and yet we see it happen over and over again. It's just there's too much exposition. There's too much focus on the wrong elements. There's way too much crammed into one movie, and it feels beholden to the idea of like, well, we got to get to Kong versus Godzilla, and we have to do that now. Whereas I think this movie would be better served by taking a breath. Because there's enough different things happening in this movie to basically make two movies out of it. If we weren't just we've got to get to Kong versus Godzilla by 2020, and so it's just kind of frustrating on that front. So there's a lot of things that bum me out and make me angry about the way that it's all come down. But at the end of the day, I really enjoyed Godzilla fighting other monsters, and the set pieces look cool, and the animations and the graphics and all the work, the FX work that's done is absolutely stunning. And there's a few times where it gets Michael Bay and is way overblown and too much, and some of the color contrast is difficult, but gosh, it was fun watching Godzilla wreck shop. And I like this version of Godzilla that is at least on paper is friendly to
has personality
and stuff. Yeah, it has some personality, and he's cool, and he's rootable instead of just big monster fight other big monster, And I think they've done some things really well with this franchise and continue to do that in this movie. I wish that we could have avoided some of the foolishness that just seems so easily avoidable, but movies fall for it over and over again. So, Batman Moth or Shane, excuse me. I have no clue what your background is on the Godzilla movies, so I'm pumped for that. So, what's your background and what were your general thoughts on this one?
Yeah, look, my background on Godzilla is pretty small. I mean, I have seen the original 1956 Japanese film, and then, of course, the corresponding American version of that film. I've seen the 98, and then I saw the 2014, and I like the 2014 movie. But I will say there was a lot going on in this movie, and I don't necessarily mean that in like the best way possible. I kind of felt a lot of this was overwhelming. I felt like, to me, this felt like if you walked into Avengers Endgame and you'd never seen another Marvel movie. Like, I felt like there were a bunch of moments in this film that were kind of set up for, like, you were supposed to know the mythology behind who these characters were, and if you did, great. It makes it all the more enjoyable. But I spent so much time thinking to myself, okay, now which one was this guy again? All right, so you've got the bug guy, and I think he's a good one. You know what I mean? It was like, I was just kind of, but there was a lot going on in this movie, and sometimes it was enjoyable. I definitely did enjoy, like, the monster fighting, for sure. But I think that, like, a lot of not that I need a good human element, but I do need the human element to, like, the plot to at least kind of make sense. And to get rid of, like, any, like, extraneous characters, which I felt like there was a ton of those in this movie. Like, Sally Hawken had nothing to do. Ken Watanabe basically had, like, 2 lines. And then, like, I think we are all in agreement. Like, Bradley Whitford is awesome. What was he doing in this movie? Like, he was just kind of the comedic relief. Same with Ice Cube Jr., right? Apologies, I don't remember his name. But, like...
That's his name. That's his legal name, I think.
Yeah, but it's just like, we could have easily cut that character out of the movie, saved a little screen time. Yeah. There were definitely parts of this movie that I enjoyed, but I did kind of feel like there was a lot going on, and I felt more kind of like just being dragged along a little bit confused more than leaning into like, oh, this is awesome. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, totally. No,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, the human element doesn't necessarily have to be great, but it needs to not slow things down as much as it does here. It definitely slows things down. There's way too many characters. You're dead on with that. I think this should have been basically Millie Bobby Brown and her mom, and then Kyle Chandler's her dad, and then you've got Ken Watanabe and Sally Hawkins to tie it back to Monarch and the original movie, and that's pretty much all you need. And yeah, they went a couple steps beyond that. The only thing that I think you really need to know going in is who Monarch is, what it's about. But to Brian's point earlier, this was so exposition-y. Like, they treat it like almost like those movies don't exist at all. I mean, it's one file scene after another, after one screen after another, showing here's this monster, here's where it's going to go, here's what we have to do. It's very complex and overstuffed from that standpoint in terms of,
Agreed.
Okay, first we have to do this, and then now hopefully Mothra doesn't kill them, but if it does, then we have to go here, and if that happens, then we got to get the radiation to here, and it's so convoluted when it doesn't really have to be, because I think most people going into this really just wanted, okay, let's see Godzilla return somehow, and then Ghidorah, wakes up, but we don't need this. I mean, the science of it, you gotta be able to suspend your disbelief. Again, like I said earlier, but the science of it just complicates things. You don't need the, and then this is not spoilery at all, but you don't need the device to talk to Godzilla and to talk to all the kaiju and everything, the titans or whatever they're called. You don't, that just like is so eye rolly every time they pull that out, and it's the MacGuffin that drives the plot. But I mean, it was pretty bad when 11 like plugs it into Fenway Park, and they're like, this is kind of spoilery. So if you haven't seen it, and I mean, let's just say,
do we want to just say,
Godzilla's the king of the monsters, guys, believe it or not.
Right.
That's
Weird.
the spoiler.
Weird.
Well, 11 like plugs it into Fenway Park, a little frequency thing to mimic Godzilla's voice, right? And it's like, all the kaiju attacks are ceasing around the world. It's like, wow, that speaker system at Fenway must be really powerful. If in South China they're stopping the attack because of the.
Well, and that's kind of the thing that I'm talking about, where, again, I don't want to be that guy that like nitpicks everything to death, because I'm usually not. But there were so many of those types of things that it just kind of just started to get annoying. With that specifically, Kent, like the first time you see the device, it's not plugged into anything, right? She just sets it down on a little walkway to use it. And maybe it's connected to some speakers in that laboratory.
It's like a briefcase,
I'll give it that.
Basically. Yeah.
Right? But then the next time you see it, she's got to plug it into Fenway Park speaker system. And then the next time it's used, they're hanging out the back of an airplane and she's just holding it in her hands. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Does this thing need speakers or not? Like, it's just kind of that little, or like, did anybody else have a hard time keeping up with like where everybody was? Like, I just felt like so many of the crews, it was like, wait a minute, last scene we were in a submarine and now we're in a plane all of a sudden? Yeah. Oh, no, I guess, wait, now we're in a helicopter? Like, I was just...
I don't see how they could survive all this stuff. Like, let's just be real about that. That's one of the main things. Like, how in God's name are they surviving all of these buildings just falling down? There's these 4 people that are just standing there watching everything and being totally good. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
the only people that you see the entire movie are these characters that were falling. Like, everybody else is dead, long dead.
Yeah, exactly. They had like one scene of showing like one city getting abandoned, and I guess you're supposed to, yeah. But did anybody else notice that like multiple times throughout this movie, at least 3 or 4 times, there was a scene where somebody was just like 3 feet outside of the radius of like a nuclear blast or like an explosion. And it was like, you get one of those per movie, man, not 4, which I think is how many were in this film. Like, there were so many of those little moments that it just started to get a little tedious for me. I do feel like objectively we need to touch on some of those lines of dialogue were really, really bad and really clunky. And, all of the people in this movie are very talented actors and actresses, but there were some lines that like Vera Farmiga had and Ken Watanabe had that it was just like, oof, boy, like that came off really rigid. And it wasn't their fault. It was just the dialogue of like, ugh, yuck, that was terrible. Did anybody else feel that way? Or
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of terrible dialogue in this. Like, the script, I always say with this kind of thing, just keep my brain from activating too much to where I start. Don't give me a reason to start asking these questions. And this was one where I was constantly actively telling my brain, don't start poking the holes, don't start looking into this, because they really made it difficult to not go down that road. It was just and a big part of it was the dialogue. It's just it's not a terrible script in the story standpoint. It's the development, it's the fleshing out of that, whatever, the treatment for this probably is pretty good and interesting and easy to pitch and all that sort of stuff. It's the going where they went from there is pretty rough. And you're right, Shane. Like, I love Kyle Chandler. He's one of my favorite actors. I love Vera Farmiga. She's one of my favorite actresses. I think Millie Bobby Brown has been outstanding in Stranger Things, and I think she's got a great amount of talent. And that's not even to consider Ken Watanabe and Bradley Whitford and Sally Hawkins and Charles Dance and all these people that I really like, and then also Thomas Middleditch. And they all have a lot to carry, and you just kind of got the impression that that a scene that Kyle Chandler's reading his lines and delivering them as best he can, and then the scene ends and he's just kind of looking around the room like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, this is crap. This is really bad stuff that we're all having to try to deliver here. And I don't know. I give them all credit for taking on the task and kind of doing yeoman's work, because it's not a good script, and it is. I think it would be easier to accept the weakness of the dialogue and some of the plotting if you cut out half of the characters and half of the plotting. Make this movie 9,500 minutes, and take at least truthfully, you could take either side of all the story that is happening here and cut it down into its own movie, or cut it out entirely and just kind of streamline this thing. And I think that would make it easier too for us all to get invested in the character, since that's something that the movie desperately wants us to do, to care about the characters, to care about these familial bonds and all this sort of stuff. It'd be a lot easier to do if I wasn't having to deal with not just too many characters, but also, now we gotta. So we've unearthed all these titans that have been sleeping forever. We also have to explore the mythology of Godzilla. We have to. We're in spoilers, right? Spoilers. Yeah. We got to really delve into the mythology of Godzilla, which is interesting. I'm okay with that. That's cool. I don't know that we have time for it in this movie. We also need to find out that the Hydra. I'm sorry, I don't know what the name of the Hydra monster is. If anybody can help me out
Ghidorah.
There. Yeah, Ghidorah. There we go. We got to find out that it's an alien, not even of this Earth. We got to get into that a little bit. We got to delve down through this vortex through the middle of the Earth to get to Godzilla's home. It's just
Atlantis.
Lot.
It looks like too.
Yeah, it's basically Atlantis, and so there's too many things happening there. That starts to feel like Spider-Man 3. We're just like cramming villains in. Well, it's the same thing with story, and it's the same thing with extra characters, and the script could be this bad, Shane. I think the script could be just as bad as it is. The dialogue could be just as bad as it is if it was scaled back by 30% and streamlined a little bit. It's not that we wouldn't notice it, but it would be easier to bypass it and just kind of let it be, because we're much closer to the times where Godzilla fights Rodan, you know? And
totally. And that's and maybe just kind of a stripping down of the mythology to kind of like make it a little bit more simple, right? Like, I mean, think about like take for example Pacific Rim. The premise of Pacific Rim is monsters show up out of nowhere. We build robots to fight them. That's literally the plot of that movie in a sentence, right? This movie, it's like, okay, so let's go back to 1954 when the time, and it's like, then we got to go through mythology. And you're right, Brian, there was so much stuff going on. And I think that's exactly what happened for me is I started to let the cracks get to me early.
Sure.
In terms of like, and then it just kind of piled on worse and worse and worse. You know, did anybody else notice, like, again, I'm not just trying to nitpick things here, but like the scene where Godzilla comes up out of the ocean, as he's coming up out of the ocean, it sets off like a whirlpool that looks like it's a mile wide. And he comes up right out of the sub. And then when he turns around and leaves, he splashes down. Yeah. And it barely splashes Kyle Chandler essentially like he was at a Shamu exhibit at the zoo. And it was like, it feels like that should be a tidal wave.
When he goes in the water, it like barely makes a ripple. It's like I don't know. It's like, to me, I take it like an alligator going into the water or something. Like it's his natural home and it knows like it's being stealth about it, I guess. I don't know.
Sure,
That's how I interpret it, because that last shot in 2014 is it going in the water, and the water's like still, like as soon as it goes under, it's like kind of weird, you know, like creepy, like Loch Ness monster like style. I don't know.
Sure,
right? Yeah.
It's not to say that that's any excuse, but that's kind of probably why I didn't think of it as that way.
Right.
No, and like I said, it's not these little nitpicks that just, it's like, oh, you can enjoy the movie if that. It's just, there ended up being so many of them for me that it just kind of, it felt like it had kind of like a snowball effect.
Right. And it starts to feel lazy too. That's for me, it's kind of problematic when the movie focuses so much on the science and the mythology and the background. So clearly there's a lot of thought that's gone into it, but when you do that, you also think I think you're almost kind of required to then get these kind of small minor details right that honestly I don't care about. I really don't care about, and I never do. I very rarely walk out of a movie like this and nitpick what, at least for me, nitpick what's happening, because it's a movie and I can accept that, like, hey, you know, in this movie about a giant lizard that fights a giant three-headed dragon, there's gonna be some weird stuff that doesn't actually make sense because it's a freaking movie about a giant lizard fighting a three-headed dragon, so it's fine. But it starts after a while, you're right, Shane, like it kind of piles up into a lot of, well, why didn't y'all just fix that? Why didn't y'all just do that just a tiny bit better? Because it would be so much easier. It just seems like there wasn't a lot of attention to details. And that's not unique by any means to Godzilla King of Monsters. That happens with a lot of movies. There are a lot of movies that we see that we walk out being like, I mean, it could have been 10% better just by effort, you know, just by not being lazy about stuff. And that's that, but it plays in a lot into this one, and it feels like a big step down from 2014. Not to say there's not plenty of stuff in the Godzilla 2014 movie that don't make sense and that don't pass the you know, real inspection, close inspection or something, but it wasn't lazy, and there was a lot of attention to detail, and it never felt like we're gonna just get so deep in the weeds of trying to tell this big huge story that we kind of forget that the details do matter some, and that feels like a step back, maybe 10 steps backward from 2014.
Yeah, you can definitely, I agree with you, Brian. That's when you know a script is starting to get lazy, is when characters start doing and saying things, not because that's what they would actually or regularly do. It's because we need the plot to get them to X and X point. Sure, so they just have to start doing stuff to get there, and it doesn't feel natural. And you're right, it just feels lazy and sloppy at a certain point.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a plot line here that I don't know how I feel about it. I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on the mass extinction of humanity thing. That's why the Titans have come back. It's Earth way of saying humanity is destroying the Earth, and the Titans are going to destroy humans so that Earth will survive, basically. Or that feels like the happening. That's the go-to comparison there of why are people dying out of nowhere? Well, it's because the Earth wants us dead. That's really that's that movie. What did you guys think about that? And I see what they were doing of like, we need some reason for this all to be happening. But yeah, it's a cliche at this point for sure.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. I need a 5-year timeout on that concept. In a post Infinity War / in-game world, I need a timeout on big scale blockbusters like this, where the main antagonist's agenda is just humans are destroying the Earth, so we need to eradicate the Earth of humans, or strip human existence back down to the Stone Age or whatever. It's very tired to me at this point. That was a massive eye roll for me and not to mention the scene again, not because of Vera Farmiga at all, but the whole sequence where she's on the Skype with them. And
We had to talk about
that. Laying out her dastardly plan, and it's.
I thought that was a bit. I thought they were going to be like, she was going to be like, psych. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Like,
she had so many like slides and video like clips ready to go on that
her
impromptu
was
Skype chat.
On point, yeah.
I ended up laughing out loud at that point because at one point she's talking about how humans have polluted the Earth, and then it just cuts to a shot of a polluted beach, and it was like, yes, I've forgotten what pollution looks like. I'm so glad that we were able to cut in a picture of what trash looks like. Yes, I remember now.
Yeah, sure. The nuking of the animals has nothing bad to do with the society, downfall of the Earth. But she's throwing nukes around like nobody.
This will be fine.
Yeah. What did you guys think about like Super Mega Godzilla in this? Of basically feeding him nukes to power him up, and then later on in the movie, Godzilla basically gets charged up by like a volcano, and I put in my notes, I have it written as Hotzilla. It's where he's just like basically made of lava, and he's like breathing fire mixed with the atomic breath kind of thing. I liked that. I liked basically all that stuff. I don't know if I liked where its platelets are like lighting up and all that stuff. I didn't really like that, but I liked where he got like I don't know, you could see in between the scales, you could see like heat, you know what I'm saying? For it later in the movie. That was a really cool effect, and kind of emulating what the Rodan effect was of the Firebird. I liked that. There was a point of the movie in the third act, in the big climactic battle, where it's Godzilla against Ghidorah, and then here comes, I guess, Rodan, and then Rodan starts to come in, and then like Mothra flies in out of nowhere. It's like, And at one point, I was like, okay, this is pretty fun. Like I was having a really good time with it, for the most part throughout. I could say, but I would say, I don't know, 1 out of every 5 minutes or so, I was like, okay. And then, I would go on for 5 more minutes and be like, okay. Okay.
Every time Bradley Whitford had a zinger, you were like, oh, all right.
That character was, Zhang Ziyi was in this too. That's another character that was kind of ancillary that you kind of probably combined into another character. So,
I will say this, Kent, that all the like leveling up of Godzilla with the nuclear stuff, whatever, it was fine. It worked visually, but there was a small contingency of people in my theater audience. I want to say about 4 or 5. Those people cheered so hard at both of those things. I don't know, it was like the moment in Avengers Endgame. Spoilers if you haven't seen Endgame, but it was like the moment where Cap grabs Thor's hammer. Mm-hmm. They were cheering that loud at both of those scenes, and I thought, oh, okay, well, this must be something from other Godzilla movies that I am just unaware of. But maybe if they've done it in other Godzilla movies, and it's like, oh, cool, they brought that back. So it sounds like, I'm going to guess, for fans of Godzilla, those were super cool moments if you knew what was going on there.
Yeah, the director helming this, Mike Dougherty, and interesting, just to work this back, he's the writer of X-Men and X2, which we talked about earlier with our friend Ariel. Earlier this, actually X2, I should say, is he wrote Superman Returns and X2, X-Men United, X-Men Apocalypse. Wrote the story for that too. So, yeah, we talked about X-Men earlier, and Mike Dougherty, the helmer of this, was big involved into I guess the world building of that, and they're hoping he can bring the same thing to the MonsterVerse. So the elephant in the room. By the way, I love the giant.
There was an elephant.
Yeah, I love the mammoth thing. That was freaking awesome. That gave me the chills on the creature design level of it. Like there was one shot of it, I guess, where it's like tusks were knocking down a building or whatever. I just love that as a visual.
Yeah, it was cool.
That was really cool. But where they're going from here, how in God's name are they is King Kong going to fight the freaking Godzilla?
I totally agree.
So dumb.
Yeah.
So
real powered up at this point.
I've actually heard spoilers. That what's
I want to know. I really do want to know.
I've heard that they're going to fight and they're almost going to kill each other, and then they're going to stop fighting when they find out they both have a friend named Mothra.
Mothra? That's good. Leave it to Piss Jar Cinematic Universe Shane to make that joke. I saw a size comparison chart, and the Godzilla from this movie is literally 10 times the size of King Kong from Kong Skull Island. From this universe, so I don't know. You would have thought they would have established that even closer. It's we need to make our King Kong this size, and Godzilla needs to be this size, so that when they fight, it's not completely unbelievable. Unless they, some kind of technology with Monarch or with Tywin Lannister happens where they make King Kong like a giant or something, and then he...
Yeah.
Unless he becomes nuclear, I don't know how he's going to defeat Godzilla.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm with you. It does kind of feel like Vern Troyer's about to box Shaq.
R.I.P. Too soon, Jane. Gosh.
Shout out to Celebrity Deathmatch. But dude. I know, and with that post credit scene, they're just going to end up teaming up to fight the Hydra Dragon.
Yeah, again. The Mecha Ghidorah.
It feels... I'll watch it because, again, I really loved all the parts of this movie that were just Godzilla fighting other creatures. So I'll totally watch it, but it doesn't feel like a fair fight. It's unless King Kong is immune to Godzilla breath or something. It just doesn't really strike me as a super interesting matchup, other than we're going to be man, that was fun to watch. It's kind of dumb, but it was fun to watch. It just seems like an odd thing to be kind of the focal point of your monster universe, given what we know about Godzilla now, and given what we know about Kong in that Skull Island movie that I totally forgot was a thing until this movie started talking about it again. So
I've watched that too a couple times. I think these really do well at knowing, at being totally consistent, and knowing that they're not going for Oscar worthy here in terms of the story, but they can approach the effects in a way that grounds this in reality. And I feel like these have been grounded in reality. And to your point earlier, Brian, of what made the 2014 one so unique was the fact that they put Godzilla in such a real world scenario, at an airport and through a neighborhood and things like that make it so unique. But I agree on the fact of we don't need explanations for everything. Like, why can't this all be happening because, you know, the Bryan Cranston people screwed up at that experiment and woke up that kaiju that woke up Godzilla, and there was this chain reaction effect. You know, that's basically what they tried to tell us, but now they're telling us it's because global warming, basically. You know, so it's a little
totally. And the flip on Vera Farmiga's character when you find out that she's actually in on it. It was cool, but that happens like 12 minutes into the movie, and we haven't had any. That to me felt like that should have been the end of this movie, and the third movie should have been the awakening of all these extra creatures and stuff. Like, that was a really cool thing that felt like kind of a pulled punch just because it happened so early in the movie that then this movie is about that. That would have made a great cliffhanger or post-credit scene or something where you figure out that she's in on this whole thing. That would have been awesome. But it feels like a pull punch on the plot point and like an over heavy use swing on the like just massive. they used up everything they had on awakening 17 monsters and stuff in one movie. It just seems like it's not a very efficient use of monsters to me. And then to set up, you know, got to go fight the giant ape that had some trouble with some soldiers, you know.
Yeah.
It's an odd, I don't know. It just seems like that is kind of a waste of some cool stuff that could have been done a lot better, a lot tighter. But we got to get to 2020, you know. We got to get to Kong versus Godzilla. That's got to happen now.
Well, it's already happened. It's in post-production right now.
Right.
It comes out in March of 2020, so less than a year from now, we'll be talking about God versus King, they're calling it, or Godzilla versus Kong. And that's Adam Wingard of Your Next fame. Actually, I've recommended that on the show before. Horror movie director is at the helm for that one. And so we'll see if they can end on a high note with that trilogy. But I don't know why they had to play every, like, Ghidorah and Mothra and all these creatures in this movie. Why? Yeah, right. Why? If you're trying to build a universe, why don't you do Godzilla 2 and well, something's happened. Maybe you bring one of them back, or some guy is trying to kill Godzilla, but we need to keep him alive because X, and that's the plot, or something like that.
Right.
And then you get to King Kong or Skull Island. Something's happened, and you bring You need to bring Skull Island into the picture more. Okay, I understand that. Why can't you do King Kong versus Ghidorah as a movie of its own? Why now nobody's going to anticipate that because they've seen it, or you do Mecha Ghidorah, or I don't know.
Yeah, but if I may, just to jump in, I just to play devil's advocate, I think the reason why they don't do that is just because these movies are so expensive to make that I think they kind of figure, you know, we might only get one shot at this, so let's put every monster in the movie just in case. Because, you know, in case this movie tanks, we can't just leave the story kind of cliff-ended or whatever. So I think their thought process was, we can't make 6 of these because they cost $200 million a piece to make. So let's just put everything we can in each movie, which is definitely, you know, there are pluses and minuses to that, but it does make every movie feel like a Hail Mary, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would look at it as, hey, screenwriter, every guy you add to this adds $50 million to the budget, so chill out with this third act, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, let's strip this down a little bit, tighten it up.
I was reading a book the other day, I can't remember what it was, but they were talking about all these characters coming together in the third act, and that's what they told him at the end was, hey, you literally can't do this because we can't afford it. Like, it sounds great in theory, but you just can't afford all these characters to come together because of the budget. I mean, you got to pay all these people, and the animation is kind of the same. So I'm just wondering about how the believability of Godzilla versus Kong is. I'm stretching my ape versus dinosaur is just tough. Even with this Kong, who is not the Peter Jackson King Kong at all. He's much bigger and more Bigfoot like than gorilla like. But yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you've got a point, Ken. Maybe they're gonna do some monarch magic and use some atomic ray and blast them up to 2/3 of the size of King Kong or up to Godzilla or something.
Maybe. Yeah, and these are made by Legendary as well. Which, man, how is this not going to cross over with Pacific Rim at some point? Because, like, I would love for Godzilla versus Pacific Rim, and bring the Jaegers into this world, the kaiju, the Jaegers, Godzilla, Kong. It's all one thing. It's the same studio, is what I'm saying. So I don't understand why that's not in the cards, or at least been hinted at more in this universe of. And I think the Jaegers exist in the future, right? So maybe that's where they're going, but. Yeah, to me that makes sense on, where is this going to be 10 years from now? I can see that being a very real possibility. If they can keep Pacific Rim alive, I think that'd be an easy way to do it. Just cross these over.
Yeah, I'm in for that. I'll buy a ticket. I'll be there opening day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, anything else you guys got on notes for... one thing else I had, a lot of overshirts in this one. Too many overshirts. It's a disaster movie, guys. It's raining. Right. You've got nobody. No, stop. That's it. That's really all I got in my notes. But
less overshirts. Good to know.
Less overshirts. Wardrobe. That's wardrobe stylists. They can't resist the overshirt. I've noticed that. It's like, all right, we're gonna give you a T-shirt now. We gotta accessorize the T-shirt with, and it's this lady, and she's like really hip to what kids wear nowadays, and she's like, everyone's wearing flannels over their tees. We're gonna do that, but it's never the case. Less overshirts. That's on the Kent Garrison list of complaints. It's always file scene overshirts. This one, ooh, a lot of negatives on that. A lot. But,
you're literally launching a spin-off podcast called Mad About Overshirts, and it's literally you're just mad about them.
It's already taken. I've already tried. Yeah, there's already a thing. But yeah, no, I added a point for every time a monster punched a monster, so there were a lot of points added for that. So we're good. We're in the clear. But yeah, anything else you guys have before we grade this one out?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like I said my piece on it.
All right, great. All right, so I don't know what I graded Godzilla, but or what I graded Kong Skull Island. I don't remember, but given the fact that I'll probably rewatch this one multiple times, and it was about what I expected, I'll give this one a B. B for King of the Monsters. What about you, Brian?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The first one for me was like an A-, maybe even a low A, if I went back and listened to that episode. I know we have spent much of this episode saying the things that are kind of annoying or wrong and stuff, but I would hope that listeners take that more as a wow, we wish this was better, because the parts that are good are really good and they're fun, and I enjoyed pretty much every scene that involved Godzilla fighting a monster. That was a blast. I like supercharged Godzilla. I love the creature design on pretty much all these creatures, and Godzilla especially. There's just a lot of scripting and exposition errors and stuff like that should have been easily avoided. But I'm with you. It's a B, and I'll watch it. I'll watch it several more times. I hope that I will say it may hinge for me. My enjoyment of this trilogy, maybe quadrilogy or whatever ends up happening with it, may hinge on what do we do with Kong versus Godzilla. If it turns out more in this realm, or the Kong Skull Island realm versus the first Godzilla 2014 movie, then I'll feel like this was a little bit of a wasted opportunity, because it just started off so well. But for now, it's a B, and it's fine and it's fun, and I'll watch it again, I'm sure, plenty of times, and I will have some level of anticipation for next year's finale to this whole thing. So, Shane, what about you?
I would give this movie a solid C. I think that the monster stuff is super enjoyable. I mean, when they actually get down to the nitty gritty of fighting, it's well done and it's enjoyable to watch. But there was just a lot of clunky stuff that just needed to be cleaned up and stripped out of this movie for it to kind of run smoother. So I can't really, in good faith, give it a B, but a solid C. It's not a waste of time.
We should mention a little bit of the box office of this. It won the weekend with $50 million. However, that is the lowest of the series so far. Godzilla made $90 million. Kong Skull Island made $60, and this one made $50. So, not what you want if you're trying to build something is be worse every time out. So, hopefully, maybe they can build something positively to Kong, and they can bring Tom Hiddleston back or something to get some people butts and seats. I don't know what they got to do, but it looks largely like it's the same cast as this for Kong versus Godzilla. Kyle Chandler, Millie Bobby Brown, Alexander Skarsgård, Denai Guerra, and
no Brie Larson. She's not in this.
Zhang Zi. No Brie Larson.
Surprise contender in
that one had the best
Godzilla versus.
That one had the best cast for sure. The Kong Skull Island of all these. John Goodman, Samuel L. Jackson was in that one too. But
John C. Reilly.
Yep. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on and hit that weekly recommend. Boom.
Weekly recommends.
All right, Rodan Shane, what you got?
So I'm going to make a weekly recommend that's a little pre-advance weekly recommend, but it is a recommend for a new album, a new record that is coming out from a band that is called the Black Keys. If you've never heard of them, they're a rock band from Akron, Ohio.
Sexy.
They have not, their last record was put out in 2014. They have not released any new music since then, but they have a new record that comes out at the end of June called Let's Rock, and there are 3 songs from the record that are out there already, and they are all straight up jams. So I cannot wait for the new record. It's going to be fantastic. And one of the songs on the record, I think the single is called Go, and the video is on YouTube, and if you haven't seen it, it's really, really funny. And the song is great. So that's my recommend. The Black Keys new record, it's called Let's Rock.
Let's rock today.
But it's not out yet. June, end of June, whenever it is.
Yeah. I'm pumped. I am pumped.
Yeah.
Last record was good, but not up to the standard that I expect from my Black Keys record.
Was. I think that last record was produced by Danger Mouse. Ken, I'm sure you would know more about it than I would, but it had a more like funkadelic vibe than kind of straight up rock and roll. So I'm with you, Brian. I think I like some of their older stuff a little better than the last record, but they're still good.
Very good. Very good. What you got, Brian?
I'm going to recommend another podcast. Somebody once told me the best way to, and I'll share this bit of knowledge, and maybe the listener will take this in stride and do this moving forward. The best way to recommend a new podcast is to recommend an episode of a podcast. So if you've enjoyed an episode of this show in particular, and you want to spread the word to your friends and family that do not listen to our show, I would always tell you to recommend a specific episode. Say, go check out Mad About Movies and listen to the whatever episode, whatever it was that jumped out at you as one that was particularly funny or insightful or whatever. So I'll do that with this one. I've recommended this show in the past. It's Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. He just released an episode last week, maybe the week before, with American treasure comedy legend Bob Newhart, and it is one of the best hours of entertainment that I've had over the last couple of years. Newhart is a great interview. Conan can be a great interviewer, and their back and forth was absolutely magnificent. I know that's something that Richard and I believe you, Kent, as well, are always fascinated by and interested in, is the kind of the art of comedy and what makes things funny and or not funny, and how all that stuff works. And Newhart is literally a living legend, and he has had such a huge impact on comedic stylings of a lot of people that you probably are that are more relevant or younger or new or whatever. He's been huge and influential in that, and he had a couple of the funniest jokes that I have ever heard that he just killed Conan with, and as well as the other people in the room. He just crushed in this episode. So check this out. It's Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, and specifically I'll tell you to listen to the Bob Newhart episode. And I can't imagine that anybody would be disappointed with it. It is a perfect hour of entertainment, I think.
Nice. I'll have to check that out.
I mean, American Treasure Bob Newhart and American Treasure Conan O'Brien.
That's right.
Man.
Double AT.
Jeez.
Yes.
Brian,
It's so funny,
come on.
Ken. You've got to check it out, man.
I'm just glad Newhart knows what a podcast is. Or
Oh my gosh, yes. He's 90 and he's still sharp as a tack. I'm serious.
He's still funnier than anybody you know personally.
He's magnificent. And I know, like, I know that podcast listening skews young, so I imagine there's plenty of people who are like, Bob Newhart, this old dude, like, there's no way. I promise his comedic stylings are so influential on what is popular now, or what has become popular over the last 20 and 30 years, and he still is a god of comedy. I'm always impressed by, I'm most interested, I should say, in the comedians who make other comedians laugh, who just kill other comedians. It's one of the things that I love about Martin Short is that it's just how pumped anyone who is a comedian or considers himself funny is just so excited to be in the presence of Martin Short, because he kills other funny people. And Newhart is the same way. It is a laugh riot. You can put the 5 in a room with Newhart, and he will be the funniest to all of them. And it's just, he's magnificent. So anyway, check that out. I think everybody would be very interested in that hour of podcasting.
Awesome.
Very cool. What you got, Kent?
I'm going to recommend a Netflix series interview. David Letterman's show is back for a season 2, and it's called My Next Guest Needs No Introduction with David Letterman. But in my opinion, season 1 was a disappointment, just kind of with how they put the show together. They were really trying for something different with a talk show, that was something different than the Late Show, what people would expect for David Letterman in terms of how it was produced. Something similar happened with Seth Meyers when he first went to the late night scene after leaving SNL. He was doing a monologue at the beginning, standing there and doing a traditional late night thing. And now you watch Seth Meyers' show on NBC, and it's just like, this is Late Night with Seth Meyers. And then it's him sitting at his desk, and he does basically Weekend Update. And, when he was asked about that, Seth said, at first we were just so hesitant to lean into what we were good at, because we wanted to do something different, because we had just come from something, traditional. So I can tell that the Letterman people have taken a step back in the off season, and for season 2, they really evaluated how they were cutting these interviews together. I mean, the first season, it was so distracting how they were cut together. I mean, the Barack Obama interview was just destroyed, I thought, by the editing, and just cutting to the audience for no reason, like cutting to Dave for a reaction when he's just not reacting. It's just him staring at, President Obama, things like that. This one is just much more straightforward, way better done, much more interesting that way. Just don't sometimes you just can't overthink these types of shows, where it's just two people talking, which is really what they were doing the first season, was overthinking it. And this season's way better. So if you weren't a fan of this season, the first season of the Letterman show, this one's way more up my alley and more watchable. I've watched the first 2, one with Kanye and one with Ellen, and they were both stellar. The Ellen one especially was very, very good. If you want to know more about where Ellen came from and her background, let's just say they're never able to get as in depth on the Late Show, because you got 7 minutes with somebody, and that's just if you're the A guest. If you're the B guest, right, you've got 3.5 minutes. So this is him and talking to somebody for an hour. So you obviously get to know somebody a lot more. And just what you're talking about, Brian, with Conan's podcast of, these people that we've grown up watching on TV, they're stuck to that medium of TV. And once they're able to break out of that medium into something like podcasting, that's just completely free of format, really, you can do whatever you want. You can talk about whatever you want. It really frees up these personalities that we love to really showcase their personality. And I'm just thankful that we have, podcasts and people that we love doing podcasts. It's greatness. And to me, that's Letterman's version of doing his podcast.
Sure.
Is that, so he gave us about 7 hours, and something they did this time, I believe, is they released them all at once. And last time, I think they released them once a week or something like that, or something weird like that. So now you can just watch the whole season and do that. So that's another change from season 1. But yeah, my next guest with David Letterman on Netflix. Love me some American treasure, David Letterman. Some of his other guests was Lewis Hamilton, the IndyCar driver, Tiffany Haddish, and Melinda Gates was another one of his guests this past season. So check that out if you're into that sort of thing. That's my recommend.
Very cool.
Well,
awesome.
Yeah, that's sorry I had to do that with Richard out, because I know he would have recommended that, but he'll probably recommend it at some point. So get ready.
He's just going to pull a power move and re-recommend it.
Oh, he'll do it. He'll be like, I don't care. Yeah. Well, Batman Shane, thank you for pinch hitting for Richard. I know he's got better things to do, shockingly, but you don't. So you're here, and thank you for being here.
Of course. Always glad to be here, guys.
Awesome. Well, Shane doesn't have Twitter or anything like that, but if you want to find him on Facebook, check us out on Mad About Movies Facebook. His name's Shane Byerly, and he's a friend of us on there. I'm sure you can find him and follow him on Facebook. Brian, where can we find you online?
You can find me on the Twitter, BGO12. You can find my writing at madaboutmoviespodcast.com and the Mad About Movies podcast newsletter. I intend to have some kind of X-Men thing up on the old blog at some point this week. So check that out. Kent, what about you, man?
You can find me on the Twitter and online at Kent Garrison. And thanks for joining us for this episode. But if you want more from us every week, check out that VIP club. Brian mentioned X-Men. We're talking that at length with our friend Ariel, Geek 101. So stay tuned for that this week in the VIP. And, man, it's going to be good times. Next week, I believe we are talking about
X-Men Dark Phoenix and then the VIP. I think next week.
Secret Life of Pets 2.
We need to do a Rocket Man episode at some point, too.
Yeah, we'll knock one of those out. We got several bonus episodes. That
June is a huge month for movies. There is a lot coming out that movie fans should be excited about in June.
So be on the lookout for. If you're a VIP member, you'll probably get some bonus these next few weeks. So
a lot.
Even more reason to join.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we'll see you all over there after the show. Until then, we'll see you at the cinema. Goodbye.
Hey, baby, I hear the blues are calling. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs. And maybe I seem a bit confused. Yeah, maybe, but I got you pegged. But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. Scrambled eggs all over my face.
They're making me yah-yah. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs.
They're calling again.